Well, our next question, Jim, was sent in to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com.
Well, you're laughing because I got gas now?
The way you said it humored me, yes.
Yes.
This was sent in by Stephen in Kildare, Ireland. On your most recent episode of The Experience, you mentioned that Vince McMahon, in his quest to kill the business twice over and move it away from wrestling, that he had accidentally created many Vince-isms. You have already touched on some of these before, such as medical facility and don't say belt and the like. Could you deep dive into that encyclopedia in that head of yours to cover as many of the Vince-isms and what they are/mean as you possibly can?
Oh, God. Well, everybody knows belt. You can't say belt. And wrestling has been banned and wrestler for a while. One time I was actually doing commentary on one of the syndicated shows. We're doing the voiceover commentary of pre-taped matches at the studio in Stamford. And I remember it was Taka Michinoku and JR and I were calling the match. And I said something to the effect of, well, Taka Michinoku better concentrate on doing something or he's not going to win this wrestling match. And JR started to say something. And Jennifer Good, the producer, said, stop. What? Can't say that. What'd we say? Can't say wrestling. I said, what? I didn't even realize what I'd said. I said, wait a minute. I can't say he's got better concentrate on winning this wrestling match. No. God damn it. And I hated to stop down because JR and I, for months in a row, would do 2 hours of television voiceovers every, I believe it was Thursday morning. We'd do Superstars for this country, and then we'd do International Heat. And everybody else that did those, they would stop down all the time and blah, blah, blah. And it'd take like 4 hours to do 2 1-hour shows, which are 45 minutes apiece without commercials. Well, JR and I did not like to stop down. We liked to do it like it was live. So we would see, and we would end up doing 2 1-hour shows in an hour and 45 minutes with a 15-minute break to re-rack tape in between. So I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't going to say sports entertainment, so I changed it to, better to win this contest or just to win this match or whatever. But it was little shit like that back when I was there. But now they actually have an entire handbook of phrases that you cannot use. And it's been out on the internet and you can look it up. But like, that's how WWE Universe came about. Didn't want to call them fans. Can't say the fans. Now you can't say the referees' names, I'm told. You're not allowed to identify the referees. They are there on your screen, but they don't exist in real life because they don't have names. Sometimes he would get boiling mad. I would understand this. This is something I would pick apart in a wrestling training class. But Vince would hate it when a guy would be backed up into the corner and another guy would choke him around the neck and or be punching him in the face and the guy's hands would be on the top rope. Right? You see a guy gets backed in the corner. He grabs it. It's nature. You grab the top rope on either side. But while you're being choked or punched in the face, Vince believed, and this is true, if it was real, you'd either try to be covering up your face or prying the fucking hands away. And that's true. And I would call that to everybody's attention in wrestling classes. But he would go on about it in meetings for fucking 5 or 10 minutes. Look at this fucking guy. Blah, blah, blah. Just certain things get under his skin. And over a period of time, they have now compiled all of those things, and so they give the announcers all these words. You've seen them. I can't even remember what else they've banned now or suggested recommended verbiage for, but it's a whole goddamn list. And it's all about trying to remove phrases and terms that he thinks are wrestling, and he's done a pretty good job of removing all of the wrestling out of his wrestling program. But, and strap was worse than belt. He hated the word, drop the strap. That was a phrase in the industry. If you're going to switch your belt, Brian is going to beat Jim for the Southeastern title. He'd go, well, I'm going to drop the strap to you. Oh, he hated that. And it's things that in his mind make his program more associated with professional wrestling. Imagine that. And I was there that time in the meeting. There was Vince. There was Shane. This was before Stephanie. Shane came. Shane's older, so Shane was around the office before Stephanie was, after he got out of school. Vince and Shane and myself and Bruce Pritchard and Shitstain and Kevin Dunn and Jim Ross and a variety of upper management folks that worked in the office. They were having, I can't remember what the subject of the meeting was called about, but Shane brought it up. He said, well, what should we call our superstars besides superstars? I said, how about wrestlers? They all look at me because I couldn't help it. And they'll look, no, should we call it, and I can't remember what his suggestions were, but it was basically everything but actors at that point. Entertainers came up and this and that. I said this, and I didn't give a fuck because that's why I couldn't wait to get out of there. And I mean, out of Connecticut and out of that whole fucking office, because I liked many of the people that worked there. And I liked the wrestling business still at that point in time when it kind of still was the wrestling business. And I wanted to work hard and do good, but I would sit there and listen to these stupid arguments and stupid discussions of things that made no sense, where they would try to pretend to be something different than what they were. And Kevin Dunn is another one. He would never, he didn't want you to say the word sport. He was offended when you drew analogies between that and real sports, because he was a baseball fan and a football fan. But I said they are wrestlers having wrestling matches, wearing wrestling boots and wrestling tights in a wrestling ring for a company called the World Wrestling Federation. So why the fuck would we not call them wrestlers? And then everybody ignores me and decides, well, should we call them entertainers or should we go? It was maddening.
Did they recognize the fact that the general public didn't do that? I mean, to the average person who doesn't watch wrestling, they're wrestlers and the show is wrestling.
Yes. No, they did not recognize that. They did not recognize. Kevin Dunn not only didn't recognize that or wouldn't admit it out. That's probably why he's still there, because if you go along and even if you don't believe something, if you say it out loud so that they can hear you say it and assume that you're on board with it, then you're okay. But if you question it, then, well, he's not with the program. Well, guess what? I ain't with the fucking program. So you would actually hear them saying these phrases to each other. And that's the big problem I had with not a big problem, but just the problem I had with Bruce is that even when we were just speaking just ourselves, he wouldn't admit that this shit was bullshit and that we were calling stuff that was one thing by obviously another name. Because I guess they were afraid that Vince had the house bugged or whatever. But no, they did not recognize that nobody has ever said that I can't wait to get my sports entertainment tickets. Or did you see the sports entertainment matches last night? Or I think I'll go to sports entertainment. And Kevin Dunn was the worst one because he would bring the studio employees in. And I mentioned this before, the documentaries that they do, the studio people and the technical folks and the producers and et cetera, the editors, they work very hard on those, and they don't even know that they're, in a lot of cases, that they're rewriting history. Some of them know, and they have no choice but to do so, but some of them don't even know. Back then, they didn't know a lot of things because they would have no wrestling background and be hired to come to work for Titan Television, and they would be educated on wrestling by Kevin Dunn. And, and he would say in production meetings when somebody was making a debut, Terry Funk, that famous time in Madison Square Garden where Terry Funk came out on Raw as Chainsaw Charlie, nobody's going to know Terry Funk in Madison Square Garden. He wasn't a big deal for us, and he hasn't been here in 10 years. I said, are you out of your mind? He's Terry Funk. Every wrestling fan in the world knows who Terry Funk is. It's not like he hasn't just been on fucking WCW a couple of years before and ECW just recently. And he was all over fucking TBS for years, and he was an NWA world champion. Everybody's going to know Terry. Well, we should do some kind of precondition. Nobody's going to know. Oh, God damn it. And of course, he went out and raised that chainsaw and did that fucking Terry sideways limp. And within 5 seconds, people were chanting, Terry, Terry, Terry. But Kevin Dunn would look at you dead seriously in the eye and say, any major superstar that was appearing for the first time for the WWF, we'd need to do a precondition or something because our fans are not wrestling fans and they're not going to know who he is.
Didn't he stop you at one point from, was it you mentioning the Dynamite Kid or you mentioning the Freebirds?
Oh, the Freebird. No, he didn't stop me. He said something about it afterwards. When they had the Brood, Edge, Christian, and Gangrel together. And I thought those guys, they looked great. The gimmick was good because they looked like the vampire guys that was hot at that time. And they were young, and I've always been a fan of Edge and Christian, and Gangrel was the veteran at that point, but he actually went and got the fangs. And so I'm putting him over on commentary. And I said something to the effect of, not since the fabulous Freebirds has 3 men like this made such an impact, or whatever the fuck, right? Kevin Dunn calls me over to the side later on at, I think next to TV, he'd heard the show. He said, don't come. And this was when Michael Hayes was working for the company, but he was Doc Hendricks then. He said, don't compare the Brood to the Freebirds. I said, what? He said, it would make them sound old. Nobody remembers the Freebirds. I said, I said, if these guys draw 1/10 of the money as the Freebirds did, we'd all be turning cartwheels down fucking Main Street in Stamford here. Are you out of your mind? And another time, I drew a comparison between, I don't know, somebody or other. And we were at a pay-per-view the next week. And in the production meeting, Kevin Dunn said, make sure it was Pete Rose was involved somehow. It was going up on that WrestleMania. And Kevin Dunn said, well, make sure to mention that last time Pete Rose was, I think, in Boston or wherever, he hit 47 home runs in a single game or whatever the fuck it was. Who gives a shit? And this is 1998. That was in 1970 fucking 3 or whatever. So I went up to him afterwards, over in a corner where nobody else could hear us. So, Kevin, I got to ask you this. I said, you just criticized me for drawing a comparison between one of our talents and somebody else from 15 years ago in the same sport. And I'm trying to make my point. He breaks it. He says, Corny, this is not a sport. I said, maybe not the way you fucking do it, but it is the way I fucking do it. And then I got hot and I finished the fucking question. I said, the point is, you blister me for comparing somebody from however long ago to somebody now that we've got in the same sport, in the same business, but yet you expect people to remember 25 years later that this fucking jack-off baseball player that's going to take his fucking Hall of Fame payoff, I wasn't saying this, but that's what he did, and go to the casino. That's why he's asking for it in cash. I said, you say that somebody is going to remember that 25 years ago, this fucking baseball player hit fucking however many home runs, and that's something that we're supposed to talk about on a wrestling program. What the fuck is the difference? We're trying to get our people over, not this fucking baseball player. And he just looked at, I said, you know what? Never mind. I said, never. And I just walked away from him because you couldn't even get through to the guy that what he was doing was basically contradictory to what he would say about the wrestling business. As long as it's a baseball player, a football player, give their entire goddamn background. But if it's a wrestler, well, nobody's going to remember that because that's years ago and they didn't wrestle for the WWF and our fans aren't wrestling fans. Well, guess what, Kevin Dunn? Now none of your fans are wrestling fans and you got a lot less fans than you used to.
I found a list of some of Vince's banned words.
There you go.
Belt, strap. Obviously, You just said it. It says here, we don't have belts or straps. We have championships, titles. The belt represents something. Well, it kind of defeats the purpose there.
Yeah.
Talk about what it represents. Hard work and dedication. Or it means accomplishment of goals, bullseye for others. Don't say the business or our industry.
And I'm with business. It should be sport. JR came up with industry. And now that JR's gone, they won't let you say industry. JR came up with industry because they didn't want him to say sport and he didn't like to say business. So he came up with industry or wrestling. They didn't want you to say wrestling. So he came up with industry. And I thought that worked because it's not offensively phony. But now they don't want you to say that.
And for the record, the sheet I'm looking at appears to be from, at a minimum, 2008, maybe 2009. Don't say feud. Don't say war. Don't say performance or performer or choreograph. Well, that seems like a natural one not to say.
Well, but wait a minute. Didn't they just say perform about 172 times on one of these shows last week?
I'm guessing Vince may have pulled back on that one. Don't say house show, use live event. Don't say backstage, use in the back or in the locker room area.
I like that.
Don't say pro wrestling or pro wrestler, use superstar, star, or athlete. Don't say international, use global. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that's, I guess now that wrestling is back on TNT and back under the Turner family, do they get to say foreign object now? Is that out of fashion and still down there?
Was that a Jim Herd thing or a Turner?
That was a Turner thing. And the announcers started making fun of it because
it's ridiculous.
Ted Turner had decided in the interest of us all being one people that things shouldn't be foreign anymore. So he banned the word foreign from being said and it was a great sentiment, but he banned the word foreign from being said on the network. However, foreign in wrestling had another connotation such as foreign object. Well, they actually legitimately told the wrestling announcers that they couldn't say foreign object anymore. So the announcers started calling it an international object because it was so fucking stupid. And that's how that happened.
Don't say shot, as in no title shots.
Oh, I know. That is why all these guys have this unwieldy verbiage where they say title opportunity, which sounds like dog shit. And remember the guy a couple weeks ago on Raw said, we're going to get a SmackDown tag team title match opportunity because he couldn't figure out it's a shot at the title. Take a shot at the brass ring, pal. He doesn't like that, though.
Don't say acrobatics. Don't say interesting. What's up with that? I don't understand that one.
I guarantee you that some way or another, somebody used the word interesting in a way that Vince didn't like, and Vince found something wrong with it, and it's one of those things that he doesn't like. I don't know about that one.
Don't say DQ. Don't say talent. Use star, superstar, or diva. Don't say me or I.
Wait a minute. DQ is another one of those wrestling terms that he doesn't like. Me or I is because he wants the announcers to speak for the fans. How would the fans? He wants them to represent what the fans feel instead of what they think.
Don't use inside terms like heel, babyface, blown up, shoot, rib, mark, etc. You'd agree on that one.
I'd agree. Everything. Is blown up just a wrestling term?
I don't know.
Son of a bitch. Maybe, every once in a while, I've said I'm blown up to fucking people not in the wrestling business if I'm out of breath, and they kind of look at me like they don't really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, maybe so then.
That may be a wrestling. I don't know what some of these, I've been around it so long, but some of these are, non-wrestling terms people wouldn't know. But yes, I agree with most of that.
Don't use U.S., say United States. This kind of shows the age of this one. This is before the universe. Don't say fans. When possible, refer to the audience as you. In other situations, ID them. Raw fans, our fans, Cena's fans, etc.
Now it's gone all the way to no fans.
Don't say hospital. Use medical center. Don't say faction. Use group. Please use now available instead of on sale. We never want to use the term the title is on the line. Please use more creative terms like the title will be defended. And then it has some recent additions as of 2008. A note from Vincent K. McMahon, less is more. Layout, Make what you have to say more important and make the audience listen to you. Use rhetorical questions, then lay out. Let the audience digest the material. And then another note from Vince. Per Vince McMahon, going forward, we never want to use the term, the title is on the line. Please use more creative terms like the title will be defended.
He hates that.
And then another one is a note from Big, per Vincent K.
Oh,
McMahon.
God, that's when he was there.
Please do not use the term sports entertainment. Going forward, please use entertainment in its place.
So just take the sports completely out. That's another Big. John Gaborick, right? He was the guy on Tough Enough. Do you know that not only did fans think he was an ex-wrestler, but I found out when I went down there to do the week of TNA tapings for Jeff Jarrett in 2017, right? Summertime, because it was hot, even for Florida. So it must have been August-ish. He was working for him at that time because he had been let go from the WWF. And some of the wrestlers thought that he had been a wrestler. That's why they were listening to him. I didn't have any problem with the guy, but I knew he was a friend of Kevin Dunn, so I knew he was a jughead. But that's what it was. He was a television production guy that was a friend of Kevin Dunn's that was out of work, and they brought him in and gave him a spot on Tough Enough and put with him with that big head. When they put him out there, people thought that he was some kind of ex-wrestler or wrestling personality because he was grading the Tough Enough guys, right? You remember him.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I said, he's never had anything to do with wrestling besides being on that show because he worked in the production company at Titan TV because he was friends with Kevin Dunn from Baltimore. And they, what? That explains a lot. Then they realized, what the fuck? Like I said, I didn't have a problem with him, but it's just that he was speaking to guys and they were listening like he was a sage, fucking wrestling coach. And so the only cross thing I had, and I just ignored it, was at that TNA taping was they wanted to have, who the fuck was it? John Morrison was there, and he was Johnny Impact then, and whoever the heel was that was working with him, could it have been Eli Drake? Might have been, I can't remember. They wanted to have him come into ring and jump John and just beat him up. And Johnny had just won a match, and plus every other match was in and in a beatdown. I said, if you really want to lay him out and fucking make an impact, make it different from all this other shit, let's break the board over his head. They said, what? I said, yeah. So I got the board and I fixed it. I ran him to the Home Depot and got the shit and fixed the board, ran through with the guys because I'm helping produce the stuff. And right as we're about to go out, Big says, you can't do that. So what are you talking about? No chair shots and no head shots. I said, I fixed the board. No, we can't do it. We can't do it. I said, it's already, and I'd gone to Jeff and made this change, right? Jeff Jarrett had approved this. I said, here's what we're going to do. And he comes in, boom, boom, boom. Oh, that's better. That's good. Do that. And he'd even helped show the heel how to fucking swing the board and not to fucking hold back because you have to commit to that swing or it won't work and you will hurt the guy. I said, I cleared it with Jeff. He said, it doesn't matter. Now he's got heat with me because Jeff has come in to take this fucking company over again and try to get it back in fucking some state of affairs. And I'm there for Jeff and he's trying to overrule Jeff on something we're about to go do. I said, well, I got news for you. This is what we're going to fucking do. And he sat back down. So the heel comes in. I'm interviewing Morrison. The heel comes in. He turns around. I duck. He breaks the board over his head. The thing flies into a million pieces. The people fucking pop. Johnny goes down. The fucking heel standing over him. I'm checking on John, taking his pulse. And Johnny opens one eye and looks up at me and smiles and says, good call on the board, Corny. Because he didn't want to take another one of those giant fucking bumps. And it didn't hurt him because it was fixed. And the fucking goof thought we were really going to break something over the fucking guy's head. No, chair shots to the head are barred. Well, this is wrestling, motherfuckers. Sit back and let the professionals drive, and you just look at the fucking monitor. But we're outnumbered now. They all come from these environments. They come from the environment where you get paid to train and go to school to learn how to become a wrestler, or you get hired to write wrestling despite having never been in a locker room before, much less actually inside the railing. I was there when Shit Stains gave me that immortal line. We'd gone to do on cameras for some fucking. He was doing commentary on the New York show, right? You remember that when they had WWF New York on WOR or something late at night, and they got Shit Stain to do the color. My ex-wife one time accidentally watched it. She said, I can't understand a word he's fucking saying. I said, it only shows in New York. They'll get it. Nobody else would. But anyway, we're coming back up the fucking ramp after the on cameras were taped. He said, that was so cool. I said, what? He said, I've never been inside the railing while a match was going on before. This was the guy that was writing the fucking show. So that's what we got now after 20 years. That's all of them. All the writers, they were going through the men's locker room to be Whistling Stranger in Paradise. A lot of the wrestlers think that it's normal to get paid to go to school and learn your fucking craft. And the ones that don't, the ones that are out there starving on the independents, well, they're starving because most of these companies are booking the Invisible Man and JoJo the Dog-Faced Boy. And they think that crowd thinks that it's okay to laugh and make fun of the business, and they're shocked at wrestlers or wrestling fans that take it seriously. So we're all pretty much outnumbered here these days.
I see some quotes here from a Chris Jericho interview that he did at some point in the last few years. And this doesn't seem to be about something on camera. It seems to be about actually talking to Vince. Was it like this with you, that you weren't allowed to use, or you couldn't use the word job? Instead, Vince would insist that you use the word favor? Someone didn't job for you, they did a favor for you?
Well, yes and no. I can see Vince doing that with the talent. I started to say I can see him, and then I'm hearing pronouns, pal. That's another thing. He doesn't want you to say, look, he drop-kicked him. He wants you to say, Brian drop-kicked Jim, because he said he drop-kicked him. Doesn't mean anything. Too many. Use pronouns, pal. That's something you can agree with, too. But if we're sitting around saying, can we get fucking Brett to do a job for Sean, he didn't mind the word job. But when he was there conveying to the top talent all the reasons why that they should be defeated in that match, he didn't want to call it a job. He wanted to call it a favor. So there's two different environments there. In a booking meeting, you can job all day long because none of you in that meeting are doing the job. But when he's talking somebody into doing the job, it becomes a favor.
One last thing about this. When The Rock started using the line, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, was that written for him, or was that something he started using the word sports entertainer there? Was that something he had decided to do?
I think he was there for that, because Rocky came in right as it was all changing, and he was going to get with the fucking curve, especially when he got that second lease on life after Die Rocky Die, when they'd pushed him as that kid and play fucking babyface. So he knew that you weren't supposed to say wrestling, so he was taking that upon himself. He was still going to be the most electrifying man in whatever the fuck he was in. So, and I don't blame him for doing that. Because if he'd have said one time, I'm the most electrifying man in professional wrestling, they wouldn't let him say it anymore. But because he said, I'm the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, they let him say it all the time, and he got it over.